My friend has this top that is such a pretty fabric, but the hem is all stretched out and it kind of looks terrible. So she sent it to me and I'm going to see what I can do for her. I started off trying to just steam it flat with the iron, but you could still see that it was rippled and stretched out. I had assumed that this was a faced hem. Often when it's a curve, the inside part will be a separate piece and there'll be a seam here, but it's not. It's a regular hem that's been turned. But this is a curve and this is a very deep hem. And I think that that is the problem. It's just too much to turn that. It's the hem itself that's making the hem stretch out. It's for Sandra and she is such a sweetheart, and that's not even going to be that much work. What I'm going to do is remove this piece and then I'm going to cut it down and I'm going to replace the hem with a facing that I'm going to make just a little bit smaller. It's going to bring that in instead of stretching it out. It's not going to be that bad. This kind of double needle cover stitch, I think I'll be able to pull that out lickety split. There. Oh yes. Okay. That's exciting. So with the hem taken down and the top inside out, now we can see what the problem is. First of all, it's cut on a flare. It's not just stretched out, it's actually cut to be flared. I can see the little lines of the knit, and if I follow one down, I can see how much flare is there. Right? And then on top of that, they did an 1.5 inch deep hem. And you just can't do that. The general rule is that the more flare, the narrower the hem needs to be. You can do a deep hem on a straight garment, but not on a flare and not on a curve. You can see on paper how that's just not going to work. I've drawn an 1.5 inch deep hem here, and look what happens when I try to turn that up. You could possibly try to ease in that edge. Sometimes designers will do that, but this has not been eased. Instead, because this fabric is stretchy, this layer has stretched to meet this layer. That's what has caused the wiggly hem. So that's just not going to work. So another way to think of it is with the actual measurement. I've got 24 inches, almost 24 inches across the bottom there. And where they've sewn that to is 22 inches. So that's a 2-inch difference on the front, 2-inch difference on the back. That's a 4-inch difference on the circumference. So no wonder this was all stretched out. So instead of just turning that deep hem, what you can use, whether it's a curved top like this or a skirt or a jacket, anytime you've got a curved hem and you want to do that nice deep hem, you can do a shaped facing. So what I'm going to do is cut it right there and use this as a shaped facing. So just to be really clear what I'm doing, I'm cutting off that hem, and instead of trying to fold it up where it does not want to go, I'm just going to slide it up and use it as a facing that way. That makes sense, right? So first I want to cut it right along that fold. I'll do one layer at a time. So instead of flipping this up where you'd be putting that longer edge back to this smaller circumference, instead of flipping it, I'm going to just lift it, just slide it up, and then just use only what I need. Do you see how much excess is here? That's going to make a world of difference. One more thing that I'll do to this piece before I put it in is just give it a bit more stability by using a tricot interfacing. Tricot is a knit interfacing. It's very lightweight. It's perfect for using with other knits. So I'm going to just take my little band. Great. I'll just run that to the iron and fuse that on. So I went ahead and I fused on that tricot interfacing, and then I serged the top edge of this band. It used to sit right like this. I put a dotted line with a Sharpie right there because I knew my friction pen would get erased. So I hope you can still see that that's the dotted line from the Sharpie. So this is exactly how that piece used to sit. This is the edge. You can tell that that edge there had been sewn, so it had been sitting right like this and had flipped up, but instead of flipping it, I'm going to slide it. So now I'll take that band and put it right side together with my top. And I probably will need to create new side seams. Well, I definitely will need to create new side seams because this band is too big. We've already established that, right? So with it in half, I'll just give myself a notch at the center of each piece, the center of the front and the center of the back, and then the center of each side of the band, just a tiny snip. So now I'll just take it right sides together, matching up notch to notch. I definitely don't want to stretch the top, but I can put a little bit of tension on the band, not really stretching it, but just putting a tiny bit of tension. So now you can see my side seams don't match up because this band, we know it's too big. But I think I'll just clip it all into place and then trim off exactly where I need it to be. Same thing for the back, just match up my notches. And then I can see exactly how much extra I have here at both side seams. And I'll use a pin here to be a little bit more accurate and mark exactly where I want that band to be sewn. And it's right there beside the seam of the top. I want to just sew the band right there. And can you see? Right there. But I'll keep the top out of the way and just sew the band. So I just ran and sewed those little bits, and now I think I'm safe to just cut off that serging, and then the band is going to fit in there perfectly, and now I'll be able to sew around that whole bottom edge and then turn my hem up and sew again on the serging. I'm just going to go around with the edge of my presser foot following the edge of the fabric, and I'm just using a straight stitch, but I'm using a ballpoint needle. And I will keep just that little bit of stretch on it as I go, just so that it has a little bit of ability to stretch later, but I definitely don't want it to be able to stretch right out. Now I'm going to flip that hem facing down. The seam allowance is going down, and I'm going to understitch that edge to the seam allowance. That's going to further stabilize this bottom edge and give me that nice crisp edge when I go to turn it. I want to make sure that seam allowance stays going down. Needs a little encouragement at the seam. That's just going to turn up so nicely. Oh my gosh, that's going to be good. Let's go to the iron. And now here at the iron, we're just going to steam everything in. And I can just let it cool like that or use my clapper. And then I'll put a few pins along that new serged edge. And I could use a double needle to mimic the original hem, but I think I'm going to keep it simple for myself and just use the regular single needle. So now I'm just sewing with my straight stitch and ballpoint needle right along that new serged edge. Okay, I'll give that a final press and then I'll show you. Okay, there we go. The hem is so much better now. I think Sandra will love it.